Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to How to Get Hired. Very special episode. It is episode 100, and it's a very special day. I'd like to wish everyone, wherever you are, a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. For a lot of people, they're doing other things on this day, being a holiday, but there are quite a few people out there that are not really concerned primarily about that right now. They have other issues, they have other concerns, and that's why I'm here today to be able to address some of those with you. This is the weekly live stream where we talk about how to get a job, everything from how to answer job interview questions to how to write resumes, cover letters, where to discover jobs, how to apply for them, all that kind of stuff, careers in general. This is where we talk about all that, and it is interactive. So if you are seeing my face, you should see a live stream somewhere nearby. Get in the live stream, get in the chat box. You should see a chat box nearby. Little slip of the tongue there. And let me know what questions you might have, what you're struggling with, what you're wondering, and any reactions. The title of this episode today is called Where Do You See Yourself in 5 Years? Best Answer. So we're going to give the best answer to that job interview question. And also, top 5 ChatGPT prompts for job seekers. So I'm going to give you my take on that. We're going to be covering those in this stream, and then we're going to be opening it up for questions. If you have questions, don't hold back. Just type them in, and we'll go from there. And if you are here, presumably, if you've got this stuff on your mind on this day of all days, because this time of year can be quite stressful for a lot of people. Just remember, you're going to be fine. Okay, you're awesome, you're employable, and it's just a matter of time. You're going to be back on top pretty soon, and this stuff won't be a concern before long. So you just remember that. Okay, let's get into this. Okay, get in the chat. Now, while we're waiting for chat questions to roll in, first of all, I want to thank all my YouTube channel members, my super thanks donors, my Patreons, and my participants. There are 14 people here. Thank you for being here. Let's get into the first question. Let's talk about the best answer to the job interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Okay, now let's get into this. This question is one of the standard traditional job interview questions. So it's highly likely that you will be asked this in your next job interview, okay? Now, the thing is, though, they may not phrase the question the same way. They may not use those words, where do you see yourself in 5 years? They might have a more modern take on it, or a sort of use different words to ask the same thing. But basically, it's the question about your future, okay? So they could say, what, is your intended career path? Something like that. It's a question about the future. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 2 years? They have all these variations of it. What's your prediction for, where you see yourself? Something like that. It's all the same question. They're asking you for a prediction about your future, okay? So let's get into what this actually is. This question is another kind of what I would call a deception, because they're not literally asking you what they are literally asking you. It sounds like this question is they're asking you for a blind prediction about your future. And a lot of the reason why many people have a problem with this question is because they can't predict the future, right? It sounds like they're asking you to predict the future, and you can't, especially considering whether you get this job or not that they're interviewing for. That would probably be a big part of predicting the future, right? And they know more about that question than you do, right? So that leads to a lot of frustration among people. Like, what is this question? What's going on? Here's the deal. They're not actually asking you for a prediction, okay? They don't really care about your future career. They may not select you, so they don't really care. What they're trying to do with this question is they're trying to see if you are someone who is going to be a long-term employee and you have genuine interest in doing this job. That's what they're probing for, okay? For example, if they say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you say, oh, doing something other than this job, right? that kind of signals to them that, well, maybe doing this job is not really your passion. It's not where you see your career going. You see your career going somewhere else. And therefore, it doesn't sound like you're a great fit for this job, right? Now, on the other hand, if they said, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you said, well, doing this job right here, doing this kind of work, that's what I like to do. That's what I want to do. And that's my ambition, right? Now that would signal that, okay, maybe you're a fit for doing this job because you seem to actually care and have a passion for doing this type of work, and or have some kind of passion for working for this company, if that was part of it. That tends to suggest you're a better fit, right? You see what they're trying to do here? That's what this question is really about, right? So let's get into it here. So first of all, don't say when they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Don't say not here. Don't say in your job. Don't say, I don't know, right? These would all be bad answers, right? Okay, if you give those, that's like a fail for this question, okay? It may not be a fail for the entire interview, but it doesn't look good, okay? There are some job interview questions where if you fail them, it can be pretty much fatal. Like you probably failed the entire interview if you fail that question. But this one, usually it doesn't work that way. It's not a sudden death kind of thing. It just means that, well, you might not be suited to this. Let's investigate further, okay? So once again, they don't want an actual prediction from you. They're just an indication of if you intend to stay, right? That's what they're looking for. In a perfect world, a recruiter or hiring manager is looking for a long-term employee. Okay, they're not really interested in hiring someone who is going to move on in 6 months, right? Now, either that means they quit and go somewhere else, or, they're really maneuvering to get a different job within the same company. They want to be promoted or they want to be transferred. They're really not looking for that. When you're wanting to fill a position, you want to fill it. You want to find the perfect person who's going to do that job, is suited to doing that job, and is going to stay, right? You're not interested in hiring someone who only sees this job as a stepping stone to something else, right? That would not be the ideal candidate. So that's what they're trying to probe for by asking this type of question, okay? Now, hopefully everybody understands what I've said so far. It's pretty straightforward, okay? Now let me throw a curveball at you. Some organizations, they want their employees to be ambitious. If you get hired for a certain role, they would consider the ideal employee someone who starts with that role, but then is capable of doing more and wants to move up. They regard that as a good trait, okay? So if you indicated that you're the type of person that if you get hired, you would want to stay in this job for the rest of your life, maybe for that organization, that wouldn't be an ideal answer because they're looking for people that want to move up or want to grow and expand on their skills and abilities within the company. The problem is that's not universal. A lot of employers, they don't actively care about that. They want you in a job, and ideally, if you are good at that job, if you stay in that job your entire career, they're fine with that. That's to them an ideal employee. They're not necessarily looking for people that immediately want to move up because not everyone can be manager. Not everyone, there might not be positions for everyone to move up, right? So this is the problem. You don't know, usually, if the company you're interviewing with, if they want people to be ambitious or they just want people to stay where they are, right? You don't know that, okay? So that can be the element of uncertainty when answering this question. If they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you say, right here in this job, one company might really like that. Another company might say, okay, that's setting your goals kind of low. We're looking for ambitious people that want to grow and, work their way up, right? That would be what we look for. We're looking for young go-getter types or something. I don't know. So because you don't know that, you have to take this into account when you answer. it would be great if you could give an answer that satisfies both, okay? So that's what I'm going to give you in this, okay? So we have to allow for that. This question can be a bit of a trap because you don't know if they want if they want you to want to get promoted. If it's a company, for example, where there's not a lot of new opportunities opening up, right? Like they have one manager, the manager is 10 years older than everyone else, but they're not retiring anytime soon. So when they hire, they're not looking for ambitious people who expect to move up because they might not be able to satisfy that, you see? So you don't know what situation you're walking into. Okay, so I gotta say one more thing before I give you the perfect answer here, okay? Now, another great element for you to do in a job interview is to have rapport with the interviewer. Okay, that's been pretty well discussed when you look up this stuff on the internet. People talk about that. The more conversational you can be with the recruiter, the more personable and friendly you can be with them, the better. The better they will think of you, and consequently, the better you will do in the interview. You go away and they think like, wow, that candidate was really good. Okay? Now, how do we do that? Well, a great way to start is to turn a question that they ask you, like an interrogation, into a conversation. You turn them firing these pre-written questions at you, you turn that into a two-way conversation. How do you do that? Well, a really good way is when you answer a question, you end your answer by asking a question back at them. Okay? That's a great general tip. So probably the easiest way to do this is when you answer a question, the last thing you say is something along the lines of, is that what you're looking for? So when they say, what are your salary expectations? You give your answer and you say, is that kind of in line with what you're expecting? Or is that what you were looking for? And then it starts to turn it into more of a two-way back and forth exchange, right? Instead of this rigid formal interrogation that they might be doing. So this question is the perfect opportunity to do this. Why? It's because you have a short answer and you don't want to go on at length answering this question, because the more you talk about your future plans and your future expectations, the worse it is for you. Because the more you say, the more chance that you have of telling them you expect something or you're looking for something and they can't satisfy it. Okay? So you don't want to give a long answer here. So this is a perfect opportunity to try and turn your answer into a conversation. You give a short answer and you end with, is that kind of what you were looking for? Or does that fit with what, you guys have here? Or something like that. And then you start talking about what they do here, and it's like a twofold benefit. You have a conversation and you don't give a lot of expectations of what you're hoping to do in the future. Okay? So after all that song and dance, let me give you my recommendation for how to answer this question. If they say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or any variation thereof, you say, well, I see myself advancing based on my performance and likely taking on new responsibilities. Do you mind me asking, where do you see this company going in the future? What are your long-term plans? Something like that. So you keep it loose. You say like, I enjoy doing this. I'm maybe taking on new responsibilities, maybe. And then you fire a question back, because you're talking about your long-term plans, you turn it into, if I can ask, what are this company's long-term plans? Where do you see this role going in the future? Something like that. And then all of a sudden you're talking about the company and how what it's trying to do and where it's going. And that gives you an opportunity to chime in with like, oh, that's great because I actually can help with that. Or I know how to do that, or what, things of that nature. They're good points, right? So that's what I'd have to say about this question. That's how I recommend you answer it, that general approach, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Let's go over to you guys. David is here. Hello, David. David says, can you mention that based on your improving performance, you take on new responsibilities too? Yes, definitely. You absolutely can. You want to indicate that you're happy being in this role, but you're open to taking on new responsibilities, growing, that kind of thing. You're not expecting one or the other. You're just open. You're easy. So whatever they have in mind, that works for you. Drive Trainer says, that's a good name, says, hi, Bill. What would be the best reply vector if you are over 50 and really want to feel safe? You're not to squeeze others out and keep being self-sufficient engineer without downplaying yourself. Are you talking about within the context of this question, or are you talking about that in general? And if you are talking in general, are you talking about at an interview, or are you talking about on an application? Or if you could just maybe refine a little, like in what context are you wanting to communicate this? Like usually, Drive Trainer, if you're over 50 and you want them to feel safe, that you're not going to squeeze others out, usually that's not something, it's not really up to you to communicate that to them. Presumably, if they already feel like they want someone over 50, they're going to select you. If they don't, then, they wouldn't be talking to you. Does that make any sense? Okay, so you say yes in the interview. So you go to the interview, they presumably see that you're over 50, and you're worried that they would decide against you based on your age for this particular reason. They don't feel safe that you're going to squeeze others out. I don't understand what you mean by squeezing others out. You mean like they hire an older person instead of a younger person? That's what you're talking about. You see, these are attitudes that they would hold beforehand, and I don't think there's too much that you can say to influence them on something like this. Either they're open to an older employee or they're not. It's just that simple. Whatever you're faced with, you're going to be doing the same thing, which is you're going to be making the best possible case for yourself and saying, look, this is why you should hire me, because I can do this. Like you're going to be doing that regardless, right? But whether they're biased against older people or they look favorably on older people, that's kind of not up to you. That's their own sort of hang-ups, right? The way this stuff works is that if you interview with one company and for whatever reason they've got some weird bias where they think old people are this, or people over 50 are this, they're lazy, or they're too stuck in their ways, or they're they don't work as hard, or whatever thing that they're thinking, you can't influence that. Maybe you don't overcome that because they just assume you are all these negative things, and there's nothing you can do about that. The solution is you keep interviewing with other companies, and you'll interview with a company who thinks the opposite. They think like, I don't want some young kid that doesn't know the basics of how to behave, how to work efficiently. They don't have any experience. I want someone who's been around the farm a few times. I want a professional. I want someone who knows how to interact with everyone around them. I want someone who works efficiently because they've had so much experience doing this that they know exactly what they're doing. You don't have to pay for them to be on any kind of learning curve. They've got it down, So that's their assumptions about people over 50. You know what I mean? So they would look favorably on you, and that's where you end up working. There's no real way to tell what biases people have, but the only thing I would say, the only thing I've ever seen that holds any water is if you're interviewing with a 50-year-old, chances are they're not biased against 50-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? If you're interviewing with a 21-year-old, then you never know. They could be biased against 50-year-olds. You know what I mean? That's just the only way to look at it. It's not for you to change people's minds. You just have to work with what you have and keep following new leads. And one of those leads will be someone who looks favorably on you, and that'll be the place that hires you. Does that make sense? That's what I would say about that. Don't let that be a concern to you. Just go down there, do your best, okay? Make the best possible pitch for why they should pick you, and that's all you can do. Carmiego is here. Carmiego says, Bill, thank you for today. Do you recommend you're welcome, Carmiego. I had some time. My family's off doing their holiday thing, and I had a couple hours, so I'm here. Do you recommend when talking about new responsibilities to keep it to the role you applied to, as opposed to praising also other roles you like? Okay, usually, listen, everything you say in a job interview to a recruiter or hiring manager should be tailored to the job you're applying for, okay? So for example, let's say you're getting a job as a customer service rep, okay? And in your career, you have worked as a customer service rep, but you've also worked as a technician, okay? So what you would like to do ideally is when you go down to the interview for the customer service rep, don't start talking at length about experiences you had as a technician or things you liked doing as a technician or work environments and accomplishments you did when you were a technician, right? Because you'll give them the impression that you really are suited to being a technician, not a customer service rep, right? So this is why we do preparation. So when you go down there, as much as possible, you want to talk about things that they can relate to for the customer service job, right? That's the general rule, okay? My nose is itchy for some reason. What the hell? Must be a Christmas thing. So do you recommend when talking about new responsibility, keep it to the role you applied to? It doesn't have to be this ironclad rule where you can't go and mention anything you did that isn't a customer service thing. But you really want to tie everything to the customer service thing. So let's say you talk about some accomplishment or some responsibilities you had as a technician, but you can say them, but it would be really cool if you could then tie that to a customer service role and say I once did this role, I learned these skills, I had these accomplishments, I learned this, it showed this, and I can bring that to when I work as a customer service rep where I'm dealing with customers bringing me technical problems. I will know how to solve them and be able to serve the customer better. Something like that, right? You see, you're tying it to this job and this role. Don't just say, I had these responsibilities that taught me all this great stuff. And then they're left thinking okay, that's great, but that was as a technician, right? That's nothing to do with this. Okay, you can praise other things, but remember, you don't want to give the impression that, you're suited for that perfectly, but that suggests you might not be suited for this. Drive trainer, the overqualification is the concern during the interview. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I talked about that at length last time I did one of these, the overqualification. Okay, listen, the bottom line is this. When someone says you're overqualified, here's the deal. First of all, overqualified is a bullshit term. There's no such thing in the real world. How could you be overqualified for something? I mean, if you're Albert Einstein, but, your sink is leaking and you need someone to fix the sink, if Albert Einstein knows how to fix the sink, are you going to say, no, I don't think you can do this. You're overqualified. That's stupid, right? What overqualified really means is that they are making an assumption about you based on a stereotype that you will not be happy with the compensation for this job. That's what overqualified means, right? It has nothing to do with, you've got too much experience or too much ability, right? Okay. So if you really want to eliminate that, the solution is pretty obvious. You just don't talk about all the other million things you've done, or, that would lead them to think, okay, you are overqualified, meaning that we assume you would want a lot more money for this than what we can pay. Okay? So that comes down to the same thing. You go down there and you don't talk at length about other things that don't relate to this job and give them the impression that, well, you're more of that than this, right? Now, the other part of this discussion is if you go to a job interview and you're talking about stuff that was on your application, so on your resume, right? And then they tell you, oh, I'm sorry, you sound like you're overqualified. That's a lie. They don't actually think that. Because if they really thought that you were overqualified, they would never have invited you to a job interview. What would be the point of talking to somebody that you think will not be satisfied with the amount of money they could pay for this role? What would be the point of bringing them down and consuming your time to get to know them if you thought that, like, on paper, there's no way this person would be happy with minimum wage? Look, they got a PhD, right? Like what sense would it make to go then and call that person down and talk to them, right? You're not going to be able to hire them based on this, based on the fact they're overqualified, right? So when they say this to you in a job interview, it's bullshit. It's a lie. They don't really think you're overqualified. They may have a suspicion you might be, but they don't really know. So they're not closed to you defending yourself and saying, like, well, no, I don't think I'm overqualified at all. I have all the qualifications you're looking for. And, I've been in this role and I'm still in this role and I like this role and that's where I want to be. You need to put their mind at ease, right? So if they've given you an interview, they don't consider you overqualified. That's the bottom line. If they say that in a job interview, it's just a tactic to either get a rise out of you or for you to then put their mind at ease that you are not, in fact, overqualified. Okay? Rick says, sir, I need your MBA course proposal form for claim. I need to apply for my company for your $100 MBA. Well, you should get a receipt. Like if you bought the course, if that's what you're saying, you should get a receipt, right? That says you've paid this, right? So you will have that. You can give that. And that shows that you took it. That shows that you paid for it. There's no diploma or anything because it's entirely self-study. There's no, like I made very clear before people buy the course, there's no evaluations, there's no test, there's no exam. That's the beauty of doing this. So you can go as deep as you want, and if you only want to skim it, the material, you can. And some people just want a very sort of superficial, generalized overview of business. And you can with this. You're not required to go in depth. So there's no exams. That's all made very upfront. So you don't get anything at the end. You get something at the start when you buy it, and you get a receipt and it says you are now registered for this course, and this is how much it cost, and you paid it. So hopefully that should give you what you need. David says, when you counter the question of where do you see yourself in the future, should you ask it from the recruiter? What? Should you ask it from the recruiter or hiring manager, since some recruiters may not be familiar with long-term plans of the company? I don't understand quite what you mean there, David. Should you ask it from the recruiter? Well, I kind of sort of gave that in my recommended answer, where I said the answer to the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years, should be something very short. And then you end with, if I can ask, where do you see this company going in the future? Or where do you see this role going in the future? Or what are your long-term plans for this company or this role or this division? Anything like that. You're asking them about their future plans, right? Now, they may not be familiar with the long-term plans of the company. They won't be privy to like the strategic plan of the business or something. But what they can say is they can say, well, no, this is a new role that the company feels we want to go more in this direction. So we've created this role. You're not replacing anyone. This is a new role. And, presumably there'll be more in the future. We'll be expanding on this in the future. Or they may say, well, we've got several people retiring from that division or that business unit. So we're going to be hiring for that business unit in the near future, I believe. But, I mean, we intend to continue doing business in this area. So that's why we've got this role posted. Something like that. They'll know something. They'll know something about it. They'll at least be able to tell you if this is one of several positions or they're going to be posting more jobs or not. Right? The recruiter may not know that. It depends who you're talking to. So if you're talking to the recruiter, I don't know, you might want to tailor the question. First of all, you're just asking, do you know any of the long-term plans for this? And they could say, well, sorry, I don't have that. You say, okay, no problem. And if it's your opportunity to continue the discussion at that point, you could say, that's interesting because several organizations are sort of expanding in this area. So I was just, it seems like you guys might be one of them because you are hiring in this area. So I was just curious, something like that. Right? But that's what I would say. You're absolutely right. They may not know the answer, but it's still not a problem if you ask them. You don't want to take that attitude where I'm not going to ask people any questions because there's a chance they might not know, so I just won't ask them. You know what I mean? I would ask anyway. And if they know anything, great. If they don't know anything, that's fine too. You just say, okay, no problem. I thought it was at least worth asking, because sometimes, it might be an area that people are expanding in, You could then ask and say, well, is this role how did it become available? Is it replacement for someone who's retiring, or is it a new position? You could steer the conversation maybe in that way. That would be appropriate. At that point, right? That would be an appropriate follow-up question. Because presumably the recruiter would know that, right? They might not know the plans for the company, but they would know if, this is a replacement for a retiree or something. Hopefully that makes sense. Get in the chat. There are 27 people here. 27 people who are here on Christmas Day. I want to reiterate what I said at the beginning. This can be a stressful time of the year for people who are looking for new opportunities. And if you are here on the holiday, I just want you to know that you're going to be just fine. Okay, you're doing the right things. You're working on yourself. Don't stop working on yourself. Don't stop pursuing leads. You can actually apply all through the holidays at this time of year. And it makes sense to, because companies are still hiring. I did a video years ago that YouTube didn't promote for some reason, but it was called Hiring During the Holidays. And the gist of it was saying that, okay, normally this amount of positions are open, okay? And in the holidays, you got maybe this amount of positions open, right? But on the other hand, normally this amount of people are looking, like job seekers are looking, but on the holidays, about this many job seekers are looking, okay? So what it amounts to is you normally have this many people pursuing this many opportunities, but during the holidays, you have this many people pursuing this many opportunities. So the ratio gets more favorable. So that can be something. That can be a reason to extend your job search through the holidays if you need to, if you are looking for something and need something relatively soon. Rick says, I need to do your MBA, sir. Please help me. Listen, Rick, I've made it very, very simple for people to buy that course and enroll in it and do it. There is a link, like it says right on the screen there, right here. There is a link in the description box below this live stream for that course. Follow the link, and it should be self-evident. Like there's a big button that says like, click here to buy or whatever, and then you just follow the instructions. So it should be pretty simple. There's also a frequently asked questions video for the course that's linked also in the description box below this live stream. So I'd recommend you watch that first. It answers basic questions about the course, how it works, what's in it, what you're expected to do and how it's going to go and all that kind of stuff. So check that out. And that should be hopefully all the help you need. I don't really provide tech support. It's pretty hands off. It's pretty straightforward. So best of luck to you. And I if you do end up taking it, I hope that it gives you what you're looking for. Jay Bink says, I had an answer backfire once. I see myself succeeding in this role and growing in this company. Oh, that backfired? The hiring manager took that as I wasn't that interested in the current position. Well, the immediate thing that forms in my head when I read that is, it depends on how you say it. If you say, I expect to be succeeding in this role and, what was it? And growing in this company, right? If you say it like that, then maybe people, what the message they receive is, canned answer, they're not really suitable, they're not really into it. But if you say, oh, I see myself succeeding in this role, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm good at, and this is, my ambition is to do this type of work. So, in 5 years, I envision myself doing this type of work. That's what I choose to do with my life and my career. Possibly taking on new responsibilities, but basically, this is my core competency. Something like that. If you said it like that, hopefully they shouldn't derive this reaction, right? Which is that they think, oh, you're not interested. You know what I mean? Jay says, how do you reflect interest in growing in a company while simultaneously showing that the job you are interviewing for is the perfect job you want, if that makes sense? Yes, it makes absolute sense. You're absolutely right. You're pointing out a contradiction. Well, it's pretty simple. You say, look, this type of thing, whatever it is this engineering work? Is this accounting work? Is this customer service work? Is this sales type work? Whatever it is, you say, this is what I do. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what I have a lot of experience in. And this is what I'm good at, Now, where do I see myself in 5 years? I see myself doing this, right? Now, maybe in 5 years, presumably, I've certainly be over any kind of learning curve. I maybe be a resource to other people. I can help train other people in this. I can help mentor maybe younger employees, newer employees in this, possibly taking on new responsibilities to add to doing this, maybe managing it or whatever comes along. But this is what I do. This is what I want to do. And this is what I'm good at. Something like that, right? So you talk about how this general thing is where you want to stay, but the specifics of what your role would involve doing it, that's kind of open. You might be able to add on doing it in new ways. So the most obvious, like I said, is instead of just doing the work, you might also be training others in how to do the work. Or you could be the person that they go to answer questions when it comes to this work, because you are the professional, you are the expert. That would be the most obvious, right? And you want to keep it vague because you're not, you don't want to limit them and say, well, I'm only interested in doing training. If they're thinking okay, usually the way this works is in 5 years, if you're good at your job as a worker, and the business is doing well, you'll probably be offered some kind of supervisory or management role. So you don't want them to think that, oh no, you're not interested in that. You just want to answer questions. You know what I mean? You want to keep it vague. So you're open to new opportunities, but this subject matter is what you do, and it's where you are, and you're an expert at this, and you enjoy doing this. Right? You kind of get that? Vague on specific duties, pretty concrete on the nature of the work. But you ask a very intelligent question. It does seem like a contradiction. How can I say I want to stay right here while simultaneously saying I want to do more? You're really on the ball to point that out. Rick says, thanks, sir. I will get a certificate. Okay, great. Yeah, like if you're interested in learning business, that's the course I create. I put that together because my sort of core competency, like I'm not a career coach. My core competency is growing businesses. Now, hiring and firing people is part of that, right? So I know a bit about that kind of stuff. And I think anyone who's had a career could talk to you a little bit about careers and hiring and all that kind of stuff. But I talk a little bit about business growth. I do a live stream on Mondays called Side Hustle Ideas. And, that's kind of where this comes in. I think that universities and stuff are acting a little bit irresponsibly in the sense that they will teach you business. Like they will offer an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration program, but they charge like ridiculous amounts of money for it, and they do it in a very inefficient way. You have to attend classes in person when that's not really necessary for learning things like accounting. Like, do you have to attend classes in person to learn mathematics? No. If you could learn mathematics out of a book, if you read the book and it's a good book, and then you do a ton of problems and check your answers, like that's how you learn mathematics. Do you have to go down to a place and be taught by some doddering old professor that, is just reading a textbook to you? Is that necessary? No, it isn't. I'm not saying that maybe some people can get some additional benefit from that, but should that be required? And then they charge you like 5 figures for that, and it takes 2 years, and you can only work part-time or something doing it. I think that's irresponsible. So I created this, and it's literally for $100. It's a self-study program where you learn business. If you want to do that and tack on some real skills, real abilities that will help you in your career, it's an option. I'm giving everyone a cheap, easy option where you can do it on your terms for only a tiny amount of money, and then you have that option. For some people, this option will work for them. For others, they're not looking for this. They're looking for like much bigger full-time commitment, and that's fine. It's just another option that's out there. I also sort of give you a little bit of my take on some of the topics. So there's that. So anyway, that's that course that Rick was asking about. Jay Binks says, thanks, Bill. I always hated the in 5 years question in particular. It always stumps me. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Jay Binks. You're right. It is kind of stupid. Like a lot of these canned job interview questions, the way they're phrased, I hate them. I really do. I think that all technical, introverted type people will hate these questions. Like, why should we hire you? Tell me about yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? These are such stupid questions because they're not asking what they appear to be asking. You have to interpret the question to see what they're really asking. In the case of things like tell me about yourself, you have to look at the context in which they're asking to really understand what the question is. Right? Like if they say, tell me about yourself, and then your answer is like, well, I'm a person that likes to play video games. And then you go into great length about all the video games you play and that you like and, how they've been a big part of your life. Is that what they're asking for? No, of course not. Right? If they ask you this in a job interview, you know what I mean? So you have to pick up on context clues and things like. Some people just aren't naturally tuned into that stuff, especially when you're young, especially when you haven't done many of these. And this question here, where do you see yourself in 5 years, is just another one of these. People think they're asking for a prediction of where you're going to be in 5 years. They're not. A better way of phrasing the question is, what type of job do you see yourself as being more suited to? if you could have any job in the world, what would it be? Those would be more accurate rephrasings of this question. But no, they don't ask it in that form. They ask it in these convoluted, vague sort of forms like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So you could go off and say, well, I don't know. I mean, do I have a crystal ball? No, I don't. So I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years. What a stupid question. I mean, I could be dead in 5 years, or I could have won the lottery in 5 years. I mean, who knows, right? I'd hate to ask this question literally to a very technical candidate that was interviewing for an engineering job or a developing job or something like that, that was young and hadn't encountered this before, because they'd probably give me a real laundry list of irrelevant things as an answer to this, because they take it literally. It's biased. These questions are biased against people that, they communicate in a very explicit, literal way. Some of the smartest people I've encountered have that personality, and these questions are biased against them. Jay says, do you think that the question requires different approaches when the job post is for an entry-level position versus, say, a more seasoned role? No, I don't. One would think it would. You are correct. But according to recruiters, no. Now, if you want proof of that, or you want sort of a backup of that, go and search for this question online and go see the recommended answers for it. They don't change based on the context. There's no indication that, if you're up for an entry-level job, then you should say this. But if you're up for, a sort of executive manager type job, which they'll never ask you this question in, by the way, you should say this other thing. I've never encountered that. No one's ever mentioned that. I've taught recruiters, and this was never a thing. So you're right that it probably should be. But if they're going to do that, they might as well just ask a more intelligent question to begin with. You know what I'm saying? I've got a bit of a chip on my shoulder. You guys know from hearing me against some recruiters who stick to these kind of questions, and they expect certain responses. And I find that they're living in a little bit of a bubble, in this bubble where they think these questions are intuitive and obvious, and they're not. They're highly biased against people who communicate very literally. And that's half the world's population, I'm given to understand. The world is evenly split between introverts and extroverts, people that have a lot of emotional intelligence. They think in a very artistic, abstract way, where they're tuned in to context clues and things like this naturally. And then other people, the more technical type of people that have more technical minds, they're picking up less on social cues, context clues, things like that. And they have a more literal approach to communication. They like things stated explicitly. They don't like when things are implied, right? They don't work well with that type of communication. These questions are highly biased against them. That's why you need to do preparation. Like, there's so many resources out there to help you prepare for job interviews and tell you the answers to job interview questions. That's why you need them, especially those people. They need them. Right? Jay says, you're reinforcing my vehement disdain for recruiters. Yeah, sorry, Jay. Like, we can just wallow in this collective frustration and hatred of this stuff. But no, that's why I started talking about this to students originally years ago, because it's unintuitive. In a perfect world, where people actually know how to conduct a job interview, if you're qualified for a job, you would go down to a job interview. They'd ask you questions about the job, and they would make their determination, and it would be accurate. But no, you go down to a job interview, they ask you questions like this that aren't directly about the job, right? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Is that about any specific job? No, it isn't. Do you answer with details about the job? No. If you've never been in that job before, could you get this question right? Yes. Right? Like, doesn't that indicate that you could easily game this kind of evaluation? Yes. But yet, despite this, recruitment and selection in the way it's practiced in corporate enterprise, they don't move away from this. They just keep doing it decade after decade after decade. And it's kind of a joke where, like, it's so well known what they're going to ask you that you have so many resources today, like, just it's a click of the mouse away. Like, here's the answer to every job interview question. Go down there and say all this and bam, you pass, Like, is that a good way to evaluate people? That kind of shows you that it isn't, right? So yeah, that's what we're up against. And that's why this is frustrating for a lot of people who kind of would think that it's based on skill, right? Like, if you genuinely are good at the job, that's the only way you could get the questions right. And it's not. Yeah. So anyway, I do a live stream every week called Honest HR Nitrous, where we really get into this. Like, let's talk about what actually goes on in the real world, not the theory, but what we actually see, and how stupid it is, and how people are disrespectful and incompetent, and that's what you have to constantly deal with in a job search. And that can be a big challenge for a lot of people. That's what we talk about. I'm actually doing a live stream later today on that. So join me for that if you're up for it. But yeah, okay. So we answer some questions. I still haven't gotten to the main point of this live stream actually today. I should probably get on with it. The topic of this live stream there was 2 questions we were going to answer. Excuse me, as I cough into my watch like a true professional. It's called Where Do You See Yourself in 5 Years? Best Answer, and Top 5 GPT Prompts for Job Seekers. Let's talk about that. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you a sort of cheat sheet right at the beginning here. Okay. Let's see if I can operate my own technology here. Okay. Let's just start with this. Okay. So if you were to go to ChatGPT and you were to type in the top 5 GPT prompts for job seekers, this is what it says about itself. Okay. So first of all, this gives you an idea of the things you can use ChatGPT for in a job search if you are not doing this already. Okay. So that's why I'm wanting to show you this. So first of all, resume optimization. You should be tailoring your resume to every job you apply for. If you are not, the odds of you getting called back after sending an application go right down, okay? That's the reality. Now, in this day and age, it's actually possible to do this. In the past, it was too labor intensive. It just wasn't possible to rewrite your resume for every job you applied to. Now it is, using tools like ChatGPT. Okay, so this gives you a very basic sort of thing, of the kind of things that you can do. So this is an example of a prompt, a very general prompt. You type in, I'm applying for whatever the role is at whatever company. Here's my resume, and then you paste in your resume, the text of your resume. Okay. Could you suggest ways to optimize it for this role, emphasizing skills and experience relevant to that role? Okay, so this is a kind of thing that you can do on ChatGPT if you're not doing it already. This is incredibly powerful, where it comes up with a custom version of your resume that's tailored to a specific job that you're applying for. You enter in your resume and you enter in the job description. Okay, so that's one thing you can do. Very, very powerful. Okay. Same thing applies for cover letters. Okay, here is an example of a very general prompt for how to do this. Okay, I need a cover letter for a specific job role, like you enter in the job role, or at a company. The job description emphasizes, skills and qualifications. Here are some background for me, and then you share, you edit the stuff. Now it's basically the same thing as what we just did. You enter in the job description, you paste it in, and then you enter in your resume, you paste it in, and you say, write me a cover letter that's tailored for this job using what I have, okay? So you can see how powerful this is. Okay, we're going to get into the specifics in a moment, but hopefully you understand the concept. Here's another one, interview preparation. Just like what we're doing here, you could use ChatGPT for it. I think if you're at the worker level, just you want the basic canned answers, this can give it to you. Okay, so I have an interview for the specific company. Once again, you paste in the job description. What type of questions would they be asking me? That basic approach. Okay. Network outreach. Now here's where once again, I think that, okay, in theory, this could help you do it, but I really think that in order to do networking properly, you need to go much further beyond just ChatGPT. But it's helping you create the custom messages you would send to people. First of all, I wouldn't do it via email. That's just me. That's based on my experience. Email is the easiest thing in the world to ignore. And there's so much spam email already out there. You know, that's what people will regard your email as, in my opinion, most of the time. And then just offloading the thinking part of your job search strategy to it. I wouldn't do this, to be honest with you, but the first three suggestions, certainly resume optimization, cover letter optimization or creation, and interview preparation. You can certainly do these. The big two here are these, okay? The resume and the cover letter. ChatGPT can help you create those in a very, very powerful and efficient way. Okay, so I basically asked it like, more detail just so I could show you guys. Resume optimization. Prompt. I'm applying for a specific role at a specific company. Here's my resume. Can you analyze it for alignment with this job industry? Suggest how I can use verb actions. Well, like you could come up with your own specific things here. But the bottom line is that this thing can take both the job description and your resume and create some new thing. Whether you need a cover letter or a tailored resume, it can create it for you. Okay, now we're going to talk about some specifics. In fact, let's talk about some of these specifics now. Okay, I just want to mention a few things here. The thing you've got to remember about resumes and cover letters and any situation where you are selling yourself to someone, you are trying to persuade someone, which is what this process is. This is a sales pitch. Your job application is a sales pitch. You are trying to persuade them to pick you, right? Buy my product. Product is me. I'm the best one of the bunch, right? When you go down to an interview, it's a sales pitch. I think you guys should pick me. Forget about the other candidates that you're interviewing and hire me, right? I'm the best one. I'm the one that will deliver the results you're looking for. Not those other people. Me, right? It's a sales pitch. This makes a lot of people cringe who are not in sales. I get it. It's slimy. It's horrible. You're in hell, but that's what it is, okay? Now, one rule for making a pitch. The rule is it's not about what you want. It's what they want. It's what they care about. So let's say in your life you've got several accomplishments, things that you think are awesome, that you're very proud of, right? But you're interviewing for a tech support job, okay? And the only thing they care about is, have you done tech support? That's what they care about, right? Now, you might have climbed Mount Everest. You might have cured world hunger. You might have ended nuclear proliferation, but you have also worked in tech support. And as much as you'd like to go down to a job interview and talk all about your efforts ending world hunger and, convincing companies to dismantle their nuclear arsenal, right, successfully. The problem is that they're not interested in any of those things. They didn't ask for someone with those qualifications. They asked for someone who's a kick-ass tech support employee, who understands the culture, who understands the technicalities of the job, can work well and communicate well with people in that context. And their ambition is to be a tech support worker, okay? So when you go down to the job interview, you only talk about stuff that they're interested in, not what you're interested in. The only time you talk about something that you're interested in is if it jives with what they're interested in, right? So if they want to hear all about tech support, you talk all about tech support. So when we create cover letters and resumes, we don't put things like, I'm looking for this, because that's bad. Not only do they not care about that, it signals that you don't get what's going on here. They're not there to please you. You're there to please them if you want them to select you. Okay? Very important concept to understand. Okay? That applies to your cover letter. That applies to your resume. Okay? It's not about, I've done this, I've done that, I'm looking for this, right? Okay? The other thing you got to know about ChatGPT and a lot of these AI tools is that in a perfect world, you could write one prompt and have this thing create something perfect, and you just use it. But we're not there yet. Usually when you actually do some of these things here, you say like, here's my command, I'm giving you my resume, I'm giving you the job description, now go, right? Usually what we get is not something usable. It requires more refinement, okay? So what I suggest is if you're creating a resume or a cover letter, you have to work on each part of it separately. So for a cover letter, you'd work on each paragraph separately, okay? You have different paragraphs in a cover letter. There's no real one standard way of doing a cover letter, but you could have several things there. It could be very short or it could be very detailed depending on what you're going for. But if it's like several paragraphs, say 3, work on each paragraph separately. If it's the first paragraph, you could talk about like your hook. This is the kind of, you ask it, say, what you know about this company and what you know about this position. What would they be really looking for here? And then you talk about that first as your hook, right? I've got this thing that you're looking for. You'd say, I need it in this many words, right? And so on. And then you fix it up. You make sure that it reads like an actual human is saying these things and not like it's created by AI, right? And then you work on the second paragraph, same thing, and you work on the third, right? It's going to require some refinement. If you just try and do the whole thing with one of these prompts like this is giving you, it probably will not be good enough. Okay, you have to refine it a bit. But that being said, it's still way easier to do this than it is to create cover letters the old-fashioned way by writing the whole thing from scratch, okay? That's another important concept. You will have to refine it. You can't just get it to spit something out and you just copy paste it into your letter and send it off. Chances are that will not get you selected for an interview. Okay? I want to say one more thing before we go back to questions here. And that is that usually the thing that convinces people that you know your stuff is if you give accomplishments. Or if you are from the UK, an accomplishment, okay? Depends on your point of view. Instead of saying duties, like this is what I did this, I answered phones, I prepared reports, I, interfaced with customers, whatever. You say the accomplishment. Now, if you don't know what an accomplishment is, it's something that includes either a dollar value or whatever currency, the currency value in dollars or whatever, or a percentage change. So it's either dollars or percentage. Okay, if you let's just assume you're in a country that uses dollars, like if you're in the EU, you would use euros, whatever. But it would be something that either involves a number for dollars or a number for percentage. Okay, so your accomplishment would look like this. You say, because of I led a project or I did a project that resulted in a savings of $52,000 a year for our department. There's an accomplishment. It has that number, $52,000. That's the impact you had. Okay? Or you say something like, I did a project that resulted in a 12% efficiency gain for this process, our customer complaints process or something. Right? So you've got a number in there for percentage change. We increased efficiency by 12% because of this thing that I did. Okay? That's an accomplishment. An accomplishment is something that has either of those two numbers in, a dollar value or a percentage. Now you can expand it and make them fancier, but that's basically what an accomplishment is, okay? It shows the effect of what you've done. Now, a lot of people hearing this for the first time, their reaction is, oh, I've never had an impact. I mean, I don't know if anything I've done has had an impact on money saved or money made. I don't work in the accounting department. I don't know that. I don't know if anything I've done has resulted in any kind of percentage gain in terms of efficiency or in terms of effect. I don't know that, right? Well, here's what you do. You estimate, okay? How much money were you paid in your last job? Whatever that amount is, multiply it by about 3, and that's the effect you're having. Okay? You are actively having that effect of generating that amount of money. So, for example, a team of 10 people, they all work together. One's an accountant, one's an engineer, one's a technician, one's a customer service representative, one's a salesperson. Okay, there's a team of 10 people. And collectively, that team sells a product and they bring in money for the company. They bring in revenue. Okay? Now, you may be a member of that team. You might be the technician. Okay? Now, the question is, okay, what's the effect of what you do? Right? If you're just a technician, you don't deal with money, you don't deal with customers. So how do you know? Well, you do work, you fix equipment. That's what you do every day, right? So you can say, look, I'm a member of a team of 10 people that generates approximately this. If you know that you do this, your business unit does this much business. Like, for example, you know that you repair 35 refrigerators every month, right? You can estimate the price of a refrigerator, and therefore 35 refrigerators, and what it would cost to repair them. And you could say, well, collectively, with 10 other people, I have this effect. So 35 refrigerators per month, that might be, I don't know, $10,000 or whatever it is. Multiply it by 12 months of the year, $120,000, whatever. I work on a team that has this effect. For the 10 of us, we have this effect. You could divide that by 10 for the 10 team members and say each of us has approximately this much value. Like, that's pretty flimsy and that's pretty convoluted, but that's how you come up with these numbers if you don't know any more specifically, right? So if you apply this type of thinking, you can come up with a lot of quantifiable results of the work you do. If you've done a project and you've improved a process somehow, right? Or let's say you answer, 5 sales calls per hour or 5 customer service calls per hour. And let's estimate that one of those 5, because of the call they had with you, they go out and buy another product or something from the company. You are generating this much income in a year. Right? You add up the price of those products that person, like one every hour for the entire year of time you're working. That's what you generate. You know what I mean? There's many ways to come up with this, but these are things that show your effect. Okay? So you can start saying these and you can start quantifying the effect you have. And it's not bogus. It's not like hocus pocus pie in the sky stuff. It's like, look, the company pays you because you make money for it, either directly or indirectly. Most people, it's indirectly, right? You might be one of 10 technicians, but those 10 technicians, they generate this much, this many millions of dollars for the company every year, right? You know what I mean? And the fact that they employ you is evidence of the fact that they are making more money than what they are paying you in compensation. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep you around, right? So remember this. Go do some research on this kind of stuff and how you can add those quantifiable accomplishments to your resume. And then it'll be stuff that you can pull out. It'll be the raw data that ChatGPT uses to answer some of these things here, where you're speaking directly to the effects of like what they're looking for, right? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That's what I want to say. I'm not going to give you exact prompts, but I'm giving you the process. Get on ChatGPT if you aren't using it yet. Get it to start creating custom versions of your resume and custom versions of your cover letter based on the job description and based on your full resume with accomplishments on it. And it can end up being quite powerful. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's go back to questions here. Matt Thomas says, why do they ask if you saw someone stealing, would you tell on them? Something in that line. Or the other stupid questions that are asked. Maybe you answered this. I've never been on your live. Okay, good question. There are two basic reasons why they ask those questions. The first is the obvious one, okay? The first is you assume that this company is ethical and they are operating in a legal way and in an ethical way, okay? And you say what would be the right thing to do. Now, if someone asked me that, I would say something to the effect of, well, I've never actually seen somebody stealing right in front of me, but if I had, this is what I would do. First of all, stealing is against company policy. It may also be illegal too, depending on the context. So, this is what I would do. Depending on the situation, I may confront the person about it. But regardless of whether I did that, my next step would be informing the immediate manager, something like that. Saying this is what I saw, this was the time, this was the person, and whether or not I had any interaction with them, something like that, right? So that's all above board, and it makes sense. The other reason they could be asking this question is because they're actually a bad employer. And they will ask you, not necessarily about stealing, but they'll ask you about some kind of unethical behavior. And what is unbeknownst to you is that the culture of that employer, that organization, is that although technically that behavior is either against company policy or it could even be illegal, informally, they are looking for people that will not kick up a fuss about it. And so this is their subtle way of seeing, are you the type of person that could kind of swing with some ethical gray areas, or are you, nope, we do it by the book, right? In which case, if they're looking for that kind of more nefarious type employee, that would be the litmus test, right? Now, if you don't know, okay, I would just assume that it's the first case where they're just testing you on some basic knowledge of business ethics. Okay? That's what I would just assume. That's the only thing you can assume in this, unless you know anything concrete to the contrary. Does that make sense, Matt? That's what I would say about this. But I agree with you. It is basically retarded, like asking people this kind of stuff. I mean, if you don't know this, then you got problems. You know what I mean? Like, you should know that stealing is wrong. You should know that if you see someone stealing, it's a problem, and you should tell someone, right? Someone in charge. Jessica Stevens says, I just have to tell you this. I have a job because of the answers that you gave. I personally want to say thank you. I've been at my job for over a year. Well, congratulations, Jessica. I'm glad it's working out for you. Isn't it stupid, though, how you can just learn the answers, say them, and pass? Isn't that just so stupid? it still boggles my mind to think of this. The reason why I do this and why I hope people benefit from it is because, like I've said several times, I got a chip on my shoulder about how stupid this process turns out to be in the real world. I think that a lot of people, who are probably the best candidate for the job, really don't come out as the winner when you get put through this process. It's so imperfect. So I'm trying to help those people get a bit of a leg up. They can do the job. They're awesome at doing the job. It's just such a shame that in order to get that job, you have to jump through these silly hoops in a dog and pony show. So that's why I do this. So I'm glad that it's working out for you, and I'm glad. Congratulations. That's really good to hear. Bob says, yeah, I agree. Good on Jessica. Jessica, I'm a testimony of his work. Of course, I'm applying to my skills. Well, thank you. Imam says, Merry Christmas for those who celebrate. Greetings from Indonesia, or Indonesia, as some people say. What's the capital of Indonesia? Is it Jakarta? I learned the capitals of all these countries when I was like 8 or something, and I haven't been updated since then. So some of the capitals have changed over the last 50 years. Yusuf says, hello, Bill. Hey, Yusuf. Yusuf says, how does one find what they are really good at, that thing that adds a lot of value to society and our companies? Okay, great question. This is like a real challenge for a lot of people. How are you supposed to know what's out there if you've never been shown what's out there? You know what I mean? In some respects, I've lived a very sheltered life. I didn't really move away from my hometown for any length of time, but I grew up in my hometown and I was completely ignorant to entire industries that are like firmly established and thriving here. Things you never even see. Just, if you have a car and you're driving around the city, or you're taking a bus and you're going around the city, you just never see. And it's sort of hidden away. And then you realize there's this whole like industry there, that all this activity. For me, things like the railroad industry. I ended up working in the railroad. I had no idea that the railroad really existed. Occasionally you get stopped by a train when you drive your car, but apart from that, you just don't see it. Anyway, there's this huge like railway infrastructure in my hometown, and all these like marshalling yards and all these facilities and things. And like they employ like tens of thousands of people, but you would have never heard of it. You didn't even know they existed. So I've worked across 5 industries, and each industry I worked in, it was a shock to learn like this stuff exists, and it's like a whole universe that you didn't know about. So there's a lot of stuff out there. There's an incredible amount of opportunities and things out there. If you've never been exposed to it, how do you know what you should be doing? How do you know what your options are? You know what I mean? So what I would suggest is get out there and network, get out there and apply for all the jobs you can. If you're younger and you can apply for more entry-level stuff, there's a tremendous opportunity to go into like find out about all these different opportunities that exist. Things that you never considered if you ever talked to like a career counselor or something. Nobody says like, okay, I want to be the chief technical officer that runs the department that deals with water and waste. They deal with the water system, and they deal with upgrades to the water system. That's what I want to do, right? Nobody even mentions that. You don't even know that's a job. Well, it turns out that is a job. It's a highly paying job. It's something you could do. It's something that you will enjoy doing. It's got a nice mix of like working behind a desk, but also working out in the field, working with people in an office, but also working out with people in the real world and dealing with internal people, dealing with external people. all kinds of new technologies, but yet, very comfortable. You understand your space. No one ever says like, I want to do that, right? But yet it's out there. How do you discover it? You see a job posted somewhere, or you do the networking thing. You talk to somebody from the Department of Water and Waste. They're on LinkedIn. You typed in, executive or CEO or something like that, and bam, there was one of the names that pops up. And here's how you contact them, right? So you reach out, you say, hey, I've got some skills. I'd love to sit down and I'd love to be able to pick your brain about your industry. And you literally go down there with an open mind to just have a conversation with somebody and ask them about their industry. Water and waste, where's that industry going? Is this like a big industry? Is this kind of on the decline? What's the deal? And they say, no, this industry is billions and billions of dollars, and it's everywhere. If you get a job in water and waste, you can go work everywhere. We have everything from blue collar people, tradespeople, and laborers, all the way up to like executives with engineering degrees and, law degrees. And we're incorporating AI now in how we do it. And we employ accountants, we employ salespeople, we employ all kinds of, roles you never thought about. Tremendous opportunity, but we're not on the radar. There's some incredible opportunities here. And you go, hey, I'll check that out, And next thing you know, you're looking at this stuff and you're applying for jobs in it, and bam, you discover it. And it fits right in with everything you have. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of opportunities like that. You don't know what's out there until you stumble across it. And you stumble across it by getting out there and looking. Okay, so that's what I would say to that. That's a great question, actually. There's so much out there. Often when we're like 18 years old, we think, okay, well, I could either be a doctor or a lawyer or a nurse or a plumber or, a real estate agent, and that's it. I can't think of anything else, right? There's so much more out there than what you imagine. And there's a lot of incredibly awesome jobs in these weird hidden areas. Another big secret is small business. Small business doesn't have the muscle to promote themselves into everyone's face. They're usually like, hidden. They're hidden away. Where I am in Canada, in an area of Canada called Manitoba, it's like a state for those Americans out there. It's like they employ far more people in small business than big business. But when you drive around a city, all you see is the big business. You see the big box stores, you see the big buildings downtown. That's what you see. But it's something like only 15% of people that have jobs are working for those big companies. The other 85% are working in companies you've never heard of, you never see because they're hidden. They're physically located in industrial parks and things like that, out of the way places, But there's a ton of activity going on. There's a ton of money being made. There's a ton of opportunities for employment, right? So you got to go and look there. Where did I leave off here? So that was Yusuf. So does that make sense? Yusuf says, awesome as always, Bill. And yes, of course, you just have to do the right thing and say the exact right things. Well, listen, yeah, you have to say the exact right things, but like we're talking like literally 3 lines. Right? So learn those 3 lines and then start doing it. You know what I mean? I talked about that stuff before. It's a turnoff. Like a lot, when I talk about networking, I lose my audience. That's the problem. But I have all that stuff in this course. Okay, so check it out. Lisa Smiley says, hey. I expect that that's said in a very sassy kind of way. What is sassy, by the way? Anybody know what that word actually means? Addie Henry says, thank you, sir. Merry Christmas to you and your family. May God bless you through your lesson. Thank you very much. And same to you. Same to you. Now, I'm a sales associate in Prince, Alberta, Saskatchewan, coming from Cameroon. I just have Eddie Murphy in my head going, I am from Cameroon. Okay, great. There's no question there, but happy holidays to you, and thank you for being here, and hopefully you're getting something out. If you have an actual question I could help you with, feel free to ask. Jessica Stevens says yes. Just yes in general. I don't know what you were saying yes to, but it's just a general sentiment of it's all good. Jessica Stevens says you have to conform to them. Yes. Yes, you do. That's what sales is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the study of how to persuade someone, right? And the only thing that people care about is what they care about. You know, when you go to the store and you want to buy, I don't know, what do you buy? You buy ham. There we go. Everyone in the world, they love ham, right? The fruit of the pork plant, right? And you go down and you buy ham, and someone gets in your face, like a sales rep from the grocery store or something, or the store manager, and they say, are you interested in this? We're having a special program where we sell you shoes and toilet cleaner and broccoli. It's this new promotion we're doing, right? And it's a big, really popular thing, by the way. Can I interest you in some broccoli shoe cleaner and whatever the other thing is? And you say, no, I don't give a rat's ass about that, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm just here to buy some ham, right? It's like they may want to talk about something to you and talk at you and tell you something. But you know what? You don't give a crap about that. You're not going to buy toilet cleaner or whatever it is. You're here to buy ham. That's why you're here. That's the only thing you care about. So talk to me about ham or shut the hell up, right? That's just the reality. If you are a successful salesperson, it's about learning what the customer cares about and helping them with that. Not like being like having an agenda and like, I'm here to tell you this. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when you go down to a job interview, it's exactly the same, right? You go down to a job interview and you think, okay, I'm about to go into my interview. Now, quick recap. I want them to know this about me. I want them to know that about me. And I want them to be aware that I have climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Okay. So make sure, like, you know, you're talking to yourself and you say, Bill, make sure, or whatever your name is, Jessica, or Bill, or both. And you say to yourself, okay, remember to say that, right? Well, the thing is, they may not care about the fact that you climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, right? They only care about how much experience you have doing customer service, right? So that's what you talk about. You don't try to talk to them about Mount Kilimanjaro, right? I know I'm laboring the point, but you'd be surprised how many people just don't get this, right? They care about what they care about, and they may care about stupid things. But if that's what they care about, that's what you better be speaking to if you want them to be persuaded, right? Sometimes people have really messed up ideas about what they want candidates to have or what they consider important. You know, you go down to an interview and you talk to a recruiter that doesn't know anything about anything, and they don't care about any technical skills because they don't understand any of the technical skills. All they care about is, you know, are you super fun and friendly to talk to? You know, and based on that, they're going to like either offer you the job or not. Right? Like, it's ridiculous, but if that's what they care about, that's what you have to deliver on, right? So you got to be open-minded. You got to be tuned in. You can't just go down there with an agenda and saying, I need to tell them this, regardless of whether they care or not. That doesn't result in success. How's that for a tirade I went on today? Youssef says, I'm thinking I go to this industrial technology park nearby and I just enter these company buildings and just be like, hey, I have this. Maybe I should try to network online beforehand. You know, I suspect you're joking, but you know what? You know what's not stupid? Let me tell you. Go to some industrial park, okay? And there'll be like roads, and instead of houses on those roads, it'll be companies, small business, right? They might even be in like a strip mall kind of affair, you know, or just company after company, right? And bring along a few copies of your resume. If you have a business card, that would be good too. and walk through the front doors of the company. And you'll most likely get to some reception desk. And let's say it's a company that does, I don't know, duct cleaning, whatever, okay? And you go up to the counter and there'll be some type of receptionist or person manning the counter, right? And you say, hi, would I be able to speak? Who is the person that's sort of in charge of this branch or this location, right? Can I ask? And they'll say, oh, that's Mr. Jones or something, or Mrs. Jones. There you go, Mrs. Jones. And you say, okay, would I be able to speak with Mrs. Jones right now? And they'll probably say, no, I'm sorry, they're on a call or they're unavailable. And you say, okay, not a problem. Listen, if I leave this with you, can you make sure that Mrs. Jones gets this? And it's like your resume folded up or something like that, right? And they say, sure, like most 99% of the time, they say, sure, yeah, you could leave that here. Like, okay, excellent, thank you very much. And then if you want to exchange a business card with this person, great. If you want to ask them if Mrs. Jones has a business card, you could grab that. Great. Okay. And then what you do is you go away. And then you go home. And then later that evening or whatever, you leave a voicemail for Mrs. Jones. You call the number, you say, hi, my name is Youssef. And I was just calling to see if you received the documentation, the piece of paper that I left for you at the front desk earlier today. I just want you to know that I think your company's awesome. You guys do duct cleaning, and I think that's fantastic. I have some skills, some technical skills, And if ever you're looking for someone that can give you a hand with that, you're looking to hire someone or just a contract thing or whatever, let me know. That's all. Thanks, and have yourself a great day. Right? And you just do this, right? So you pound the pavement. You just walk through the front door of these companies. There's no confrontation. There's no awkward moment. You just say, like, is this person here? They say, no, not a problem. If I leave this here, can you make sure they get it? Sure. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. You have yourself a great day. And you just do that to a bunch of companies. If you walk out of there with some kind of business card, you just follow up, call the switchboard, get them to put you through to that person's voicemail, leave that message. Now, if they are hiring, okay, the law of averages are that some companies are hiring. I don't know what percentage. It varies by industry and location and a bunch of things, but maybe 5% of them are hiring right now, okay? Now, put yourself in their shoes. Who would they want to hire? A faceless resume that they got by posting the job online from a person that they don't know who this is, right? Maybe they're just only interested in the money. They don't care about the job. Or would you look into the person that actually showed up that you've already interacted with? You've already got a voicemail from them and they've met your receptionist. You could ask the receptionist, did that person come by yesterday? What were they like? And they might say, oh, they were really polite and they left that, And say, oh, okay. Who would you investigate further? You would investigate the person that showed up, right? And it elevates yourself above all the other people that only applied online, right? So I know you're kind of joking there, Youssef. At least that's what I kind of pick up on. But that's actually an extremely powerful way of making stuff happen, right? Making stuff happen. Try this sometime. With small businesses. Small businesses, they don't have written procedures for everything. They don't have policies on everything. They kind of just do what they feel like a lot of the time. It could be like a family business, whatever, with a couple of extra employees, right? They might be looking for someone. If they are, they'll look into you. So that's what I have to say about that. Youssef says, no, I was serious. Okay, well, good. Yeah. I'm glad to hear it. Now, I know it sounds scary. It sounds scary and like, oh no, I could never do that. I could never walk down the street and walk into a building. I don't, just remember, you're not doing anything different than what you do when you go to a store, right? You go to a store, you can march up to the counter and talk to somebody there, and you have a legitimate question to ask, right? When you go to the store, hi, Is the sale on these things still in effect, or is that over? Something like that. Is the manager around today, or they're not coming in? Legitimate question, right? Everything is above board here. There's nothing weird or awkward or slimy. It's all perfectly above board, right? And if you're especially scared of talking to a stranger on the phone, you can just do it in the evening and leave a voicemail, right? Just checking to see if you received my resume. I just wanted to let you know, if ever you're looking for someone who can do customer service and they're really, really good at it, give me a call because I'd love to work for you. That's all. Have yourself a great day. There you go. Easy. So there you go. That's what I'd say. There's 28 people here. Thank you for joining me today. I've got to wrap this up, but I will be back in like half an hour to do another live stream. Honest HR Nitrous. That's where we really get into some of the realities of job search and what you can do. The topic today is more of a business type topic, but we discuss everything. So come back if you're interested in that. I wish you nothing but the best. I will hope everybody everywhere has a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And as I said at the very beginning, okay, if you're looking for a job at this time of year and it's a little bit stressful, everything's a little bit more stressful this time of year, just remember, you're going to be fine. You're highly employable. Everything's going to work out. It's just a matter of time, and things can turn around before you know it. So you're doing the right things. You're doing self-improvement. If you need help, that's what I'm here for. Other than that, I wish you the best. Thanks, everyone. Take care.